Welcome, everyone. I'm Agustin Rayo. I'm the Kenan Sahin Dean of the School of Humanities, Arts and Social Sciences, or SHAS, as we call it, at MIT. And it is my privilege to welcome you to the Robert Muh Award ceremony. Thanks for being here. The Robert Muh Award was established in the year 2000, which was the 50th anniversary of SHAS. Bob Muh, who created the award, class of 1959, aimed to honor MIT graduates in the fields of humanities, arts, and social sciences who have gone on to extraordinary achievements. Bob is a co-founder of Sutter Securities Incorporated in San Francisco. He has served on a number of SHAS visiting committees, and he is a life member emeritus of the MIT Corporation. We are so grateful for all that you have done for MIT. So, Bob is here, as is his wife, Berit, and their daughter, Carrie, who is herself an MIT graduate. So welcome to all three of you. I would also like to welcome MIT Corporation Chair Mark Gorenberg and several other members of the corporation who are here today. Thank you so much for being here. Our president, Sally Kornbluth, is not able to be here, and she sends her regrets. I also want to recognize Philip Curry, who I cannot see now. Oh, there he is. So until very recently, he was our vice provost for the arts, a position he held for about 20 years. And before then, he had my role. And he worked with Bob on setting up this award. So thank you, Philip, and thank you for being here. Today, we recognize Ray Kurzweil. He received his undergraduate degree at MIT in computer science and literature in 1970. And he is one of the most prolific thinkers of our time. The Wall Street Journal called him the restless genius. Forbes called him the ultimate thinking machine. Inc. magazine described him as the rightful heir to Thomas Edison. He was recently named Chief AI Officer at Beyond Imagination, which is a humanoid robotics company that he co-founded. Before then, he was at Google. Ray is a visionary and a futurist. There is perhaps no one with a better understanding of technology, the pace of its advancement, and its impact on humanity. His law of accelerating returns has allowed him to make astonishingly accurate predictions about the future of technological innovation, including accurate predictions about the rapid acceleration of AI technology and its impact on our lives. Ray is an inventor. He has created many things that make the world a better place. He, for example, designed the first reading machine for the blind, a technology that has had many other uses. And he designed the Kurzweil 250, which is a revolutionary digital synthesizer. Ray is a writer who has 5 best-selling books, including his latest, The Singularity is Near, and he is currently writing Artificial General Intelligence is Here, which I very much look forward to reading. He has received countless honors, including 21 honorary degrees, the National Medal of Technology. He's a member of the National Inventors Hall of Fame. He has been an honoree of 3 presidents, and he has a Grammy for outstanding achievement to music technology. MIT has benefited from his service to the corporation between 2005 and 2012, and Ray continues to be actively involved. He has built his life and his career on the belief that ideas change the world and change it for the better. As he says, there is a solution to every problem, we just have to think of it. I would now like to invite Bob and Ray to the stage for the presentation of the 2025 Robert Muh Alumni Award to Ray Kurzweil. Ray, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Well, it's beautiful to be here. It's a brand new building devoted to music, which we didn't have when I was here. I come from a musical family, so it's really compelling to be here. You should hear me very well, because the acoustics here is pretty amazing. So thank you, Augustine, for your kind introduction. That was actually quite nice. I'll ask you to give me an introduction at other events. I'm truly honored to receive this award. And I'm delighted to have Bob and Robert Muh here, as well as their daughter, Carrie. Your long-standing commitment to our alma mater is inspiring, and I'm grateful to be recognized by you and the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences. So I actually majored in computer science, which was a brand new field, and actually did not get its own number. It has the number 6-1, but I also majored in creative writing, and I've actually continued both careers. MIT has played a major role in my personal and professional life over the years. I have many fond memories of being a student here in the 1960s, which is a long time ago. It's like 60 years ago. Having MIT Press publish my first book, The Age of Intelligent Machines, giving lectures to many excellent conferences and classes, serving as a member of the corporation for 7 years. I see a couple of people from the corporation here. Earlier this year, I had the pleasure of talking to the corporation in Washington about the future of artificial intelligence and education. If I think back to when I went to MIT, as I mentioned, it was 60 years ago, it feels like it's part of my life now. It doesn't seem that long ago. I can remember it. It seems like yesterday. But if I think back to my last year of high school, which was 61 years ago, seems like a different lifetime. So going to MIT, that was really the beginning of my adult life. And today I'm going to be talking about reinventing intelligence and the story of how I came to MIT, dedicated 63 years to studying and developing AI. My involvement with AI goes back 63 years. If I told people I was involved with AI, they hadn't heard of it. In fact, I hadn't even heard of computers back then. So anyway, I'd like to start with a poem, actually a funny poem. A squirrel named Nuts, with a twitch in his tail, very important looking, that twitch, discovered a peanut, not a peanut, mind you, but the peanut, round, fat, glorious, left just so by some two-legged giant, probably forgetful. He chirped, a small explosion of glee, or possibly gas, it's hard to tell with squirrels, and grabbed it with paws so quick they were almost invisible, like Monday morning motivation. Then horror, a blue jay, a feathered thief, with eyes like polished disdain, swooped. Nuts, our hero, with the aforementioned twitching tail, did not flinch. He juked, he jived, he became a flurry blur of anti-jay acrobatics. Well, it goes on. This poem was written by Gemini 2.5. I simply asked it to compose a funny poem in the voice of E.E. Cummings. And I've actually been doing this every year, and it did not work a year ago. I asked a number of different large language models to create a funny poem. It had some kind of thing that wasn't expected, but it really wasn't funny. Now, what is funny? It's really hard to describe. But I actually did this 5 times with Gemini 2.5. Each time it was funny in different ways. So defining humor is not so easy. It requires a deep understanding of language, what people expect to hear. So to be able to tap into humor is perhaps one of the most basic human traits. We cannot define it, yet we respond to it. Now, there's several books which I've looked at on what humor is and how they are difficult to understand. I will say that these books are not funny. It's compelling. A large language model has actually begun to understand humor, what we will respond to as being funny. It's a big step in understanding the emotions that people have. The one key that I would like to emphasize is this is just one of the many advances in AI that the last year has shown. This wasn't true a year ago, now it's true. And the key thing that this shows is the rate of progress. The next year will show even more advancement. And this will continue year after year. People do not appreciate that the rate of progress is accelerating. It's hard to hear me give a speech without using the word accelerating. Let me come back to that. So this is me at 3 years old. And I would spend a lot of time looking at mechanical and electronic objects, which is what I have in my hand, and trying to understand how they worked. So this was the formative stage of my inventing career. My parents taught me the power of ideas can really change the world. That was the religion that I grew up on. No matter what quandaries we face, business problems, health issues, relationship difficulties, as was mentioned before, there's an idea that can enable us to prevail. And it's up to us to find that idea. And it's personal. You, Ray, or you, whatever your name is, can find that idea. Now, both my family and my wife, Sonia's family, had fled the Nazis in Europe. The stories seemed completely impossible. They survived despite all odds against them. They gave me a genuine appreciation for how the arts and the innovation can bring people together. So this is me with my parents. My father was a musician. He's actually preparing there to conduct an orchestra. My mother was an artist. It was actually his music that saved his life. In 1937, when he was just 25, he gave an orchestral performance of Brahms for an international audience. And in the crowd that night was Gertrude Sumner Eli, a friend of Eleanor Roosevelt. After the concert, she handed my father her card, said, reach out if you ever need anything. So a year later, he actually kept the card. In 1938, when he was forced to flee Austria, he did contact her, and she sponsored him, which was necessary for saving his life. My mother always encouraged me to pursue my ideas. She was difficult in her last stage because of a problem she had, but when I was like 10, 12, we would take these long walks in the woods, and I would tell her my ideas, and no matter how fantastical they were, she believed them. Now, other parents might have simply chuckled, they might have pretended they believed in, but she actually believed my ideas. And that actually gave me my confidence. And I think confidence is important to succeeding. Her father was, also had the rare opportunity to travel back to Austria after the war. And he was actually interested in how people were serving him when they were trying to kill him when he tried to leave. He was actually given the opportunity to handle Leonardo da Vinci's original manuscripts with his own hands. He described the experience with reverence, as if he had touched the work of God. This was the religion that I was raised with, devotion to human creativity and the power of ideas. My great-grandmother on my mother's side and other members of my family started the Sternschule in 1858. This was one of the very first schools in Europe that provided higher education for girls. So if you were trying to get an education, first of all, it was lucky if you got any education as a girl in 19th century Europe. Her daughter, my grandmother, took it over. It was one of the first women in Europe to receive a PhD in chemistry, and the school actually went from kindergarten up to 14th grade. If you were able to get an education at all in Europe, it generally went through 9th grade. So later, my grandmother wrote a book called One Life is Not Enough. It's actually a good title for one of my books on life extension. And she showed it to me when I was 7 years old. Now, the book itself didn't interest me at the time, although it did later. But the manual typewriter she had written it on was amazing to me. It was a magical machine. It could actually turn a blank piece of paper into something that looked like it came from a book. I studied every mechanism inside it. That was my first inspiration to become an inventor. Other kids were wondering what they wanted to be, teacher, policeman. I always knew that I would be an inventor since age of 7. I built a go-kart that I rode around in my neighborhood, searching for broken bicycles, broken radios that I could bring home. I took them apart. I was sure if I could just figure out how I could put these things back together in the right way, I could solve any problem. And I really had this idea. Didn't know how to put them together, but I could solve any problem if I could figure that out. I remember talking to some much older girls. I think they were about 10. I told them that I was going to build machines that could do anything like fly, see through walls, and so on. They said something about me having quite an imagination. So the first time I ever worked on a computer was when I was 12. Back in 1960, there were only about 12 computers in all of New York City. People had not heard of computers, let alone artificial intelligence. And I got access to one during the overnight shift at Flower and Fifth Avenue Hospital in Spanish Harlem. Not a great idea to walk around Spanish Harlem in the middle of the night, but I had the 12 o'clock to 8 a.m. shift. I had a job programming statistical tests to evaluate Head Start, its early education program. This was the beginning of Head Start, which is still a major program. After I entered the data, the front lights of the computer, which you can actually see here, would dim and glow like a dance as it was considering the information. And I remember thinking about it. This took like several minutes. It looked like it was deep in thought. And I was immediately struck by the relationship between computers and intelligence. Now, keep in mind, there was no internet, no email, no Google. The only way to explore anything was to go to a library. The main way to research something was to have a bag of quarters so that you could feed the copier to make copies of research books that you were not able to check out. That's when I learned about a new obscure academic field, which has its origins here, called artificial intelligence. It had only gotten its name 6 years earlier, in 1956, at a conference at Dartmouth College. The name was created by John McCarthy and Marvin Minsky. You must remember Marvin Minsky. And he was about 29. I noticed that Minsky was not far away at MIT, and I was in Queens, New York. So in 1962, when I was 14, I wrote Minsky that I'd like to see him and talk about this new field. I still have a copy of that letter. He wrote back quickly, invited me to visit him, so I came to Cambridge. I figured I would meet him for maybe half an hour, but he actually spent all day with me, like he had nothing more important to do. He invited me to come to MIT, and he became my mentor for 50 years. I'm writing an autobiography, and I say a lot about my interactions with him. I chose MIT because of Marvin Minsky, and because MIT was so advanced, it actually had its own computer. I remember when I was a junior in 1968, it had an IBM 7094. My closest friend at MIT was Aaron Kleiner. He's actually here. He's actually wearing a suit, so it may be hard to see him, but yeah, he looked pretty good 60 years ago. We worked together ever since we graduated. Aaron and my other brothers at Tau Epsilon Phi, that's TEP, used to call me the Phantom because one minute I'd be there, and the next I'd be gone for days working on my computer projects. Aaron likes to tell the story of cramming the night before a physics exam. When I strolled in, just remembered, oh, the exam is tomorrow. So I borrowed his book for an hour or two. I tried to ace the exam. I won't tell you what happened, but I have to admit that I didn't actually take my coursework very seriously. I was very concerned with my projects, the impact that I could have, and this led to recurring nightmares about desperately searching for my lost textbooks and class notes, which I still have to this day. Up until the 1970s, optical character recognition programs could only handle a single font. That made them pretty limited when it came to scanning real-world documents. So my goal was to build a computer that could recognize any font, and we pulled it off. The funny thing is we didn't really know what to do with it at first. Like a lot of clever software, it was a solution in search of a problem. So I happened to actually sit next to a blind gentleman on a plane. He had no trouble communicating or traveling. He told me there's really nothing he can't do, but he said, actually, there's one thing that's a challenge, as reading ordinary printed material. Only 3% of the books are put into Braille. So that became our focus. That was the problem we've been looking for. I realized we could use our Omni font or any font, OCR, to help overcome the barrier of accessing printed material for the blind. Of course, that meant we had to invent a few other things, a flatbed scanner, which didn't exist, text-to-speech synthesis, which also wasn't around, and at that point, I didn't know much about blindness. So I reached out to the many blindness organizations for their guidance. It was the National Federation of the Blind, which you can see here, and that's actually the reading machine when we introduced it. And they replied with concrete ideas and immediate enthusiasm. They are an organization for blind people, run by blind people, with over 50,000 members. It's the largest organization of its kind worldwide. I'm happy to have Anil Lewis here from the National Federation of the Blind. I worked with the National Federation of the Blind to hire 8 blind engineers, which worked on every aspect of the reading machine, including helping design the machine's user controls. So this is a picture of the first reading machine. Cost about $20,000. It's about it could scan a printed page from any book, read it out loud, no matter what font it was in, and it became standard in libraries. I've been collaborating with the National Federation of the Blind ever since. For 51 years, I've actually been to their convention 51 times, which is not a record, but it's close to it. The reading machine has now evolved into a free app on your phone. So it actually is on your phone, it's free, and you just point it up and you can read any printed document. It has truly been one of the most gratifying projects of my career. Being blind doesn't mean being limited. When we have the right approaches, the possibilities are endless. And the same is true for any challenge. With the right ideas and technology, we can go beyond it. What defines us is our intelligence, creativity, and passion, and technology helps bring those qualities forward. So in 1970, So in 1976, I announced the reading machine on the Today Show on NBC. We only had one working prototype. And just 2 hours before we were scheduled to go live on TV, the machine stopped working. So we frantically disassembled it backstage, spreading all the parts across the floor. The person who was actually due to interview me walked by and said, is there a problem? No, we assured him, just making some final adjustments. So when we reassembled it, it still didn't work. That's when my chief engineer lifted the machine up and slammed it down on the table, and miraculously it started working. We had 15 minutes to spare, and the demonstration went without a hitch. As it turned out, Stevie Wonder saw that Today Show segment. He called our office and said, "Hi, this is Stevie Wonder. Can I speak to Ray Kurzweil?" My receptionist was skeptical, and she said, "Okay, but I'm Marilyn Monroe." So Stevie arrived by taxi. He offered to buy the machine. Of course, we wouldn't accept his money. We spent a few hours showing him how to use it, discussing the technology behind it, and that was the beginning of our friendship for the next 50 years. We stayed in touch over the years, visiting each other whenever we were on the same coast. Stevie was actually quite tech savvy. He was up on all the tech news. And one conversation kept coming up again and again, which was music, which is appropriate for this call. He had just moved into a new studio. He called it Wonderland. And he told me he was frustrated that traditional instruments made beautiful sounds, but no one could play them all. Even if you could play one, most instruments could only play one note at a time. Meanwhile, synthesizers gave musicians a new kind of freedom. You could layer sounds, you could create complex compositions, you could create a whole orchestra, but they didn't sound like real instruments. They sounded like organs. So Stevie asked me, would it be possible to make a synthesizer that sounds like real instruments and have the flexibility to record and layer music at the same time? I thought it could be done if we used pattern recognition to create the nuances of each instrument's sound. The piano was the toughest because it makes a wide range of complex enharmonic sounds. Most instruments make vibrations that line up in neat multiples of the main note. So the piano is different. The exotones or the overtones are slightly off tune. That's not true of other instruments. The little bit of out of tune is what gives the piano its unique sound. Without it, a piano would sound like an organ. So when we set out to reproduce it electronically, we had to capture all those beautiful imperfections. I agreed to pursue the idea if Stevie would collaborate with us. And so we founded Kurzweil Music in 1982 with Stevie Wonder as our advisor. We demoed the prototype of the Kurzweil 250 in 1983, and we launched it in 1984. It was the first synthesizer that could truly emulate a piano. Stevie ended up with about 50 of them. They became central to the sound of his albums. As I was working on the Kurzweil keyboard, I began researching the pace of technological advancement, and I mentioned this earlier. Things are accelerating. As an inventor, I learned timing was critical for everything from inventions to investments to romance. You got to be in the right place at the right time. And even the best inventions fail if they're released at the wrong time. So in 1983, I began tracking the rate of technological progress to help develop and time my inventions. And that's when I discovered information technology was advancing at an exponential rate. Before anyone knew it could happen. You could say I backed into futurism this way. So this is the most famous chart. This has been updated to the present time. I've been updating this. Actually started when it was in the middle, but I figured it would actually continue. Now, as it goes up each level, it multiplies by 10. So this is actually an exponential graph. A straight line on an exponential graph is exponential growth. And it's very much a straight line. I mean, this is what actually happened from 1939 to the present. It shows the amount of computing power you can buy for one constant dollar. On a logarithmic scale, it shows a smooth and steady line. And as I said, this means consistent exponential growth. Since the first programmable computer was released in 1939, despite major world events like World War II, economic booms and busts, regardless of the hardware measured, this exponential trend goes from relays to vacuum tubes to transistors to integrated circuits. This goes way beyond Moore's law. I mean, there's 80 different charts here. This is the best computer of that year. Only 10 out of the 80 have to do with Moore's law. So this goes way beyond Moore's law. And you can actually make predictions, which I've done. So in 1939, the first programmable computer performed 0.00007 calculations per second per constant dollar. Today, the NVIDIA B200 chip performs 500 billion calculations per second per constant dollar. That's a 75 quadrillion-fold increase. That's 75,000 trillion-fold increase in the amount of computation you can get for the same money. And that's just the hardware. We're also making software gains, and the overall pace of computations equals a hardware times software. So hardware is 75,000 trillion. We're making about a million-fold increase in software. So the overall increase is about 75 million, thousand, trillion-fold increase in 80 years. That's why we didn't have large language models in 1939, or even 4 years ago. People actually introduced large language models 4 years ago. They didn't really work. It was kind of a joke. Even a year ago, didn't work very well. Now it can actually capture humor and so on. This is the reason why. So as the hardware improves, the same amount of computing power produces smarter algorithms, which create better apps, more powerful tools, bigger breakthroughs. For example, the algorithms that drive large language models are doubling in efficiency every 8 months. With advances in hardware and software, the power of AI is growing 10 times per year for the same costs. We see this exponential trend specifically with information technologies. We always use the latest computer chip to develop the next chip. People don't really think of exponential growth. They think in linear growth. So if something took maybe 10 years in the past, they assume it's going to take 10 years in the future. That's linear growth. And people anticipate things will be linear. If you count linear, 1, 2, 3, 4, by the time you get to 30, you're at 30. But what's really happening, you're going 2, 4, 8, 16, and by the time you get to 30, you're at 1 billion. And that's what's really happening. So in 1999, I used this data to predict that computers would reach artificial general intelligence by 2029. Stanford University had been looking at my predictions. They were so concerned, they held a worldwide conference of AI experts from around the world. Several hundred people came. And about 80% agreed that AI would reach human-level intelligence. So they were agreeing with me, except they thought it would take 100 years, not 30. And I've actually been running into some of the people that were there, and they said, yes, we assumed it would take 100 years, but it looks like it's 30. Today, consensus has fallen in line with my prediction. Some say it will happen sooner, like 2027. I've basically gone from being an optimist to being a pessimist without ever changing my mind. As AI spreads through every industry, it's going to leap from the digital world to the physical world, and it will completely transform everything we care about. So I'll mention one area. One of the biggest transformations we're going to see from AI in the near term is health and medicine. AI can now simulate billions of molecules and sort through them in record time. So for example, at the very start of the COVID pandemic, Moderna used AI to design and optimize mRNA sequences. In just 2 days, they had the formula for the successful vaccine. 2 days. The pace was stunning. It usually takes 5 to 10 years. Moderna also relied on AI to accelerate manufacturing and testing, which got this out very quickly. Going forward, we'll use biological simulations to find cures for all diseases like cancer, Alzheimer, and we'll replace human trials with digital trials. So instead of testing things on humans, which take years, we'll test them simulated, and we won't just test them on like a few hundred, 500 or maybe 1,000 different humans. We'll test them on 1 million, and we'll do that in a matter of days. It'll be much more accurate and 1,000 times faster. These incredible breakthroughs are going to lead to what we call longevity escape velocity. Right now, as you live through a year, you use up a year of your longevity. However, if you're diligent about healthcare and nutrition, and I assume that all of you will be, I estimate you'll get back as much as 4 months per year today from breakthroughs in scientific understanding, coming up with new cures, new treatments. In other words, you only lose about 8 months of longevity in the year. And as we apply AI to medicine, these breakthroughs are going to advance exponentially. So by roughly 2032, when you live through a year, you'll get back an entire year from scientific progress. And beyond that point, you'll get back more than a year for every year you live. So you'll be going backwards in time as far as your health is concerned. Longevity escape philosophy will start with people who are diligent about their health care and nutrition. For kids today, or even people in their 20s and 30s, it's not going to be difficult to get there. I also believe that grandparents like me and the other grandparents in this room who are proactive will get there also. Now, this doesn't guarantee that you'll live forever. You could still die in an accident tomorrow. What it means is your risk of dying won't go up as you age. And AI is also reducing accidents. Take self-driving cars. Human-operated cars right now kill about 40,000 people a year in the United States. Waymo, which is providing 250,000 rides per week, and that number is growing exponentially and has caused no deaths at all. Much better than if they were done by humans. But many people are worried that we'll have to compete with AI for survival, but artificial intelligence is not an alien invasion. It's evolving from within us. It will reflect our humanity. We're creating it with values, knowledge, beliefs. From the first hominid who picked up a stick to reach a higher branch, to Gemini and GPT-5 today, our technology is how we extend the reach of our bodies and minds. As we move forward, the lines between humans and technology will blur until we are ultimately one and the same. The amount of computation that took up an entire floor of a building now fits on a smartphone in your pocket, and what now fits in your pocket will fit inside a blood cell, will be far more powerful. This is how we're going to merge with AI. In the 2030s, robots the size of molecules will go into our brains non-invasively through the capillaries and will connect our brains directly to the cloud. Think of it like having a phone, but in your brain. If you ask or just think about a question, your brain will go out to the cloud for an answer, like the way you do on your phone now, only it will be instant. There won't be any input or output issues. You won't even realize it's been done. The answer will just appear in your brain like it's part of you. You won't be able to tell the difference between ideas that emerge in your biological brain versus your computational brain. It will be one brain. By 2045, once we have fully merged with AI, our intelligence will no longer be constrained by the size of our skulls. It will expand 1,000,000-fold. It will be more creative, funny, sexy, compassionate. This is what we call the singularity. Imagine a world where AI can collaborate with human artists, not just as a tool, but as a genuine partner in the creative process. This has already begun. When my father wanted to hear his compositions, he had to hire an entire orchestra to play them, which was expensive, time-consuming. If he were alive today, he'd simply play them with a software program in seconds at no cost. Human creativity is limited to our understanding of several paths to innovation, whereas AI's creativity stems from every possible path to every possible innovation. Even when there are trillions of possibilities, AI will allow us to sort through all combinations of data to find all possible creative solutions which lead us to new innovations at record speed. When we connect our brains to the cloud, we will not only expand our memories and speed up our thinking, we'll add more complex and abstract thinking that we can even imagine today. It's like asking a mouse what it's like to be a human. The mouse doesn't understand the question, let alone the answer, but it's good that we've gone beyond what a mouse can do. AI is how we humans will now enhance our education and insight. What's happened to creativity and skills that are unimaginable today, like visualizing shapes in 11 dimensions or speaking every language, which AI can already do. We'll have the capability to recreate ourselves and our world. Remember what happened 2 million years ago? The last time we gained more neocortex? We became humans. When we can access additional neocortex in the cloud, the leap in cognitive abstraction will be similar. The result will be the invention of new means of expression vastly richer than the art and technology that is possible today. Now, technology has always been a double-edged sword. The same drone that delivers medication to a remote hospital can also carry explosives. The threats of AI are real, must be taken seriously. I think we are doing that. However, it's essential to also recognize the profound benefits of AI in order to bring about a positive future. Optimism is not an idle speculation. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If we assume everything is getting worse, it will. If you think we are not making any progress, it's easy to decide it's not worth trying. We have a moral imperative to realize the promise of new technologies while controlling the peril. Both good and bad people are going to merge with AI and have a sharp increase in intelligence. We need to protect and improve our human governance and social institutions and continue to advance our ethical ideals, which have profoundly reduced violence if you look at the data in recent centuries and decades. When I was growing up, most people assumed that nuclear war was inevitable. The fact that our species found the wisdom to refrain from using these terrible weapons for the past 80 years shines as an example of how we have it in our power to use emerging biotechnology, nanotechnology, superintelligent AI responsibly. We are not doomed to fail in controlling these risks. As the power of AI grows, its ability to thwart the misuse of its capabilities will also grow. I'm very proud that I've had the opportunity to get to know MIT in many different ways. I'm confident that this will continue and grow in the times ahead. Thank you very much.
Ray, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. We have time for a few questions. Someone will be walking around with a microphone, so if you have a question, raise your hand and a microphone will come to you. Oh, maybe I'm the person with a microphone.
Thank you, sir. It's delightful to hear you and your analysis. I'm curious, in both books, you envision bots, little nanobots, cursing around our body, especially understanding our mind. But I also see, I think, that bots are put the fear of invasion of alien creatures or something, and it's not happening as broadly as a tool for advancing our understanding of the brain, as I was hoping reading your first book 100 years ago. Can you comment?
Well, right now, I believe almost everybody has one of these. That was actually controversial 10 years ago. These existed, but most people didn't have them. Aaron had one in his car. Now everybody has them. The next step is going to be virtual reality. You just put on these glasses and you'll actually see, you could see a computer screen or you could see anything you want. And it will actually be, this is controversial, but it will happen. It will actually listen to what you're saying. You're wondering who's that person in this movie. It will just hear that and it will pop up. You won't have to actually ask it. It'll be constantly looking at it. It'll see what you see. It'll tell you stories behind it. So your AI will be constantly addressing what you do. Ultimately, we'll go inside the mind. There are a few projects that are doing this today. It'll ultimately be done without surgery. You think that people won't do it, but the people that actually do it are going to be far ahead. It's going to be interested in everything you're doing. Issues come up. You're not actually going to be able to be aware, as I said in my speech, whether it's coming from your biological mind or from your computational mind. Just come. I mean, you're trying to think of something, and suddenly you're thinking of it. You don't know where that came from. So it'll come from either AI or otherwise. This is already giving us access to basically everything that human beings have done already. It's a little bit of, takes a certain amount of time to access it. Ultimately, it will be very instantaneous, and there are many different ways of doing that, but that'll happen in the 2030s. So by 2045, we'll have multiplied our intelligence 1 billion-fold, and you won't really be able to, I'm sorry, 1 million-fold. You won't really be able to tell where it's coming from.
Thank you for the very insightful lecture. I was wondering what your advice might be to folks who are still in college or have recently graduated, how they should position their learning, their advancement, their career, their work, their life's goals in the face of this exponential growth that we're seeing and the transformations that we should expect in the next few years.
I mean, this is a big issue for education. As I interact with different educational institutions, including for our grandchildren, like from kindergarten up through graduate school, the idea is, okay, let's not use AI. AI is interfering with education, let's not use it. But the world that people are going to graduate in are already using it. The kids know how to use it, they're just not using it in school. Now this is beginning to change, but AI is actually part of our, of what we know. I mean, AI didn't come from Mars. It's not some alien invasion of intelligent beings from some other planet. It actually has everything that human beings have, and it actually puts things together in the same way, and it can actually explore, and this is happening right now. We're using AI simulations of physics to simulate what's going to happen in medicine, and it's getting faster and faster. We're actually putting together a way to simulate all different types of biological things that happen. I'm talking to people that are doing this. They feel it'll be completely finished in about 5 years. So I mean, in 5 years, we won't really need to experiment on humans. We'll be able to experiment with simulated biology, which will happen very, very quickly. So we really need to prepare people to understand this is the world that we're living in. And it's a good thing. We're actually able to be able to master things much more quickly. So I think it's actually good to be a young person now. It will actually be somewhat difficult in that we've got to really change our economy to be able to master this. But ultimately, it's going to give everybody an ability to understand what everybody has done and access to that in our own mind.
Yeah, I just wanted to express profound gratitude for optimism, hope and optimism, which we really, really need right now. I brought a group of students from an international boarding school, so they are high school students, and one of them has a question, but my question was, how do we teach the teachers to be optimistic, and especially with the intersection of AI and creativity, which you've alluded to several times, but my student.
Well, this is a big issue. There's a desire that people's biological mind learn things and not just rely on AI. It's hard to do, but that's the way the educational system has been created. The educational system moves very slowly. It really was designed 50 or 100 years ago. It's very hard to change it. But the kids are learning how to use AI. Our grandson, for example, creates movies using AI. He's 10, and so on. And I don't have all the answers to that. But we have to be able to teach them for the world that's going to exist when they graduate.
So we have time for one more quick question. How about you?
Thank you very much. You just made a comment regarding changing how our economy works. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that in light of changes coming to AI, how we can, like there's going to be distributional impacts. Just want to hear your thoughts on how the economy can be changed or should be changed.
Well, the availability of jobs is going to change, and we're going to be able to actually know lots of things. So going to one person and only this very small group can, for example, code computers, is going to change. We will have, it's quite clear we're going to have to give a certain amount of money to everybody to be able to live. And they'll be able to then create things that are, I mean, we've had this before. If you go back 200 years ago, 80% of our people worked in farming. Today is 1.4%. And they actually create a lot more food than the 80% did 200 years ago. Jobs have actually gone up. And lots of things have been no, people can't get jobs in them anymore, but there's new types of jobs that didn't exist before. So, well, don't worry about losing your job. You'll be able to get a job as an influencer in social networks, and people would have no idea what you're talking about. That's going to continue, but we're actually going to use AI as part of who we are. It's not going to be us. I've got my intelligence from my biology, and I've got this AI that's different. It's all going to be merged together, and we're going to be able to do things that we couldn't do before. So we're going to have to make certain changes so that everybody is happy, and that will creates some concern, but the end result of it will be positive. Thank you very much.
Ray, thank you so, so much.